My child-loving neighbors keep trying to take my daughter and make our kids be a creepy twin couple. I call them out in front of everyone at their Halloween party because they try to set up our kids together. My husband and I moved to Germany with our kids 4 years ago. So, needless to say, we know the culture despite not being native. Our daughter started school this August for the first time, and many of her classmates live in the same area we do. One of the boys in her class lives at the end of the road behind us. When we first moved into the neighborhood back in May, we were welcomed by a few of our close neighbors and this boy's mother, let's call her Astrid. She took a liking to my baby, but most people fuss over babies, so I didn't think much of it. That same day she told me how she had lost 2 baby girls and how lucky I was to have so many girls, and she only had 3 boys. The day after she came with her husband, let's call him Morton, and he too wanted to pick up the baby and paid her a lot of compliments. Until he met our oldest daughter and made a remark that I didn't think much of at the time. He said my daughter and his son could easily pass for twins as they are in the same class, and they look alike. They don't. My daughter is super blonde with gray eyes, and their son has dark dirty blonde hair with hazel eyes. So, I corrected him. He feigned offense and said what he meant was that she could pass for his daughter, the baby too. Again I corrected them that with his light brown hair and hazel eyes, neither of my girls could. He once again insisted and said, I mean our features, not the coloring. Then he laughed it off and said he was just joking. They then invited us to go out for drinks, but we declined as neither one of us drinks and we don't like to be too friendly with neighbors. During the summer when we bumped into them at the local store a few times, Morton and Astrid would call her Julia Stern and sing a song from a famous movie. Here. After a few times, I told them to knock it off as it was no longer funny. Since May and up until a week ago they have tried to invite us to many get-togethers, which I found strange as they hardly ever invite the neighbors that they have known for longer than us. Morton and Astrid would quite often talk to my daughter on her way back to school, as she passes their house on the way home, and she said that it bothers her as they have both tried to pick her up, and Astrid has tried a few times to touch her hair. When my husband confronted them about it, they said it's just the culture here. It's not. The picking up and touching of her hair stopped after that. At the beginning of October, they wanted us to help them host a Halloween party at the end of October, and wanted us to meet them at their house so we could coordinate the children's costumes, especially the twins. We declined again as we don't celebrate Halloween. They tried to convince us otherwise and were very pushy. Even had their son knock on our door a few times to play with his twin after school. Knocking on doors to play with other children is normal, and most children roam out and about as it's a safe neighborhood and country, so that part was never suspicious to me. However, after the umpteenth time of calling my daughter one of his twins, I put my foot down and said he needed to stop joking about it as it's not funny anymore. My husband goes offshore at times due to his work, and it has been me and the children since mid-October. My daughter's teacher also lives in the neighborhood and she is a childhood friend of Astrid. She was present in the park by our house when Astrid came up to me and handed me 3 costumes. One for each of my girls. She said as we don't celebrate Halloween, she and her husband had decided to host a Halloween party instead and wanted my girls to wear these. I was shocked but told her no. It would not happen. The teacher tried to convince me that this would be a nice way of meeting other families and it would be fun for our children. Astrid said she had spent a lot of money on adjusting the costumes and had found the right hairstyle for my daughter to go as Gretel to her son Hans. I told her no one made her spend the money as I had made it very clear that none of my children would be going. Right in front of me she took the hairband off my daughter's hair and tried to put one on that she had bought for the costume. I told her to stop and started walking off. She tried to apologize and said relax. We are neighbors and friends. Her teacher followed me and said not to be uptight and that Astrid meant no harm. She just likes girls. On Monday my daughter came home with a different hairstyle and accessories to what I had sent her off with. I asked her how she got them, and she said her teacher had done her hair during lunch. I asked her if she had played rough so her hair needed to be fixed. She said no. Yesterday morning I spoke to her teacher, and she confirmed that it was indeed her who had fixed her hair and that it was Astrid who bought the stuff. I asked her why she would go against my wishes, to which she said it was only hair stuff and Astrid didn't want to throw it away as she had spent money on it. She thought that with 3 daughters, I would appreciate help with some free accessories. She also said that I had not made it explicitly clear not to fix my daughter's hair. I left after telling her to never do it again and returned the stuff. In the evening the neighborhood children went trick-or-treating. Those participating were informed it would last from 6 to 8. I let my daughter go off and play with one of the other girls who wasn't trick-or-treating. At about 7, I couldn't hear them. So, I went outside to check and they were not there. I asked one of the other children if they had seen her and they said Morton and Astrid had collected her in their car, and her friend had gone home. I asked next door to watch my other two while I ran with the baby to their place. When I arrived there, they were having a party in the garden and my daughter was there. She had her hair done, and she had a candy bag. She was also wearing the costume. So, in my anger, I called the police before speaking to anyone, and once I got off the call I called both of them child lovers and everything under the sun in multiple languages. When the police arrived and I spoke to them, we left. Today at school, her teacher was very short with me and said there was no need for that as Morton volunteers for the children's football club. Having a police report filed on him was not the wisest of choices. She explained that if I wasn't happy, I should have asked for a mediation appointment at the school instead of embarrassing Astrid and Morton in front of everyone. She also mentioned that it was she who helped my daughter change into the costume, and it's not unusual for teachers to help their students change here. That part is partially true for this country. She said Astrid has been grieving, and her behavior is normal for someone who lost so many children one after the other, and not to make it harder on her as people have gossiped quite a bit about it. She said they didn't know they had crossed a line and it wouldn't happen again, so they just dropped the complaint at the police. On Friday, I have to make a full statement at the police station. She wants me to cancel it as Astrid and Morton are not bad people, and she thinks I should be glad someone else thinks this highly of my daughter. She wasn't harmed, and she sees no reason for me being angry as the children all play in each other's garden anyway. She said not to blow things out of proportion as at no point was my daughter alone with Morton.